Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for visiting our class today. The class is Ayurvedic mental health. So mental sheath in Sanskrit language is called Manomaya Kosha, and it has some major parts and layers of mental sheath that will make it multidimensional and transcendental and quantum. So we have the highest expression of the mind that connects to the spiritual realm and is not conditioned by the ego. And this is the only part not conditioned by the ego is Mahabuddhi, or transcendental mind. It is in modern psychology, it's called unconscious mind. Modern psychology likes using three terms: unconscious mind, conscious mind, and subconscious mind. So unconscious mind can be indicative of the transcendental mind, Mahabuddhi, in yoga and Ayurveda. So this is the highest expression of the mind. We also refer to the higher self. I send question or request to my higher self, and then I get the answer. So that's what exactly they mean, because it's more like a cosmic knowledge close to spirituality that detaches from the body. There's a spiritual realm, the very high conscious realm. Then there is body aspect. That's the lower expression of self. And the mind is the medium. That's in between. And the way it connects to the spiritual realm is through the transcendental mind, Mahabuddhi. And the way it connects to the lower realm, which is the body, is through manas, which is just the lower mind that connects us to the subconscious mind. Going on is the conscious mind. The conscious mind is everything that we know and feel that is in the field of our being and our control, something that we connect to and we consciously recognize in the present moment and in the past as well. That's the conscious mind that can bring about the memories fairly quickly and easily to a certain level. Different people have different abilities. Like if your mind is influenced by Vata, then you'd have some challenges bringing the memories, remembering the fullness of the moments of the past experiences. But if you're under Kapha dosha influence, that the memories would actually be very vibrant and whole. That's the two parts of conscious mind we have. The one is the manas, and that is the lower mind, which can be described as the operational mind, the one that is in control of this moment. It's analyzing, it's perceiving, and it is the speaking mind. It is able of making decisions, making analytical decisions based on the present situation and based on the previous experiences when it brings about those in order to make choice of the behavioral pattern in this moment. It gets developed when we are born. We're actually born without even the higher mind. Conscious mind dies with the body. And when we are reborn, reincarnated, we only have some expression, some like very light expression of transcendental mind, which if we manage to develop in previous lives would actually be present in this life as well. And conscious mind connects to the senses, and senses are connected to the body, the way that the body perceives the external environment and perceives self in order to develop and start building conclusions about self and about the external world. So we do it through our senses. There are 5 basic senses. They're called Panchatanmantras. They are vision, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. Through those senses, the lower mind, which is manas, connects to the body. The higher expression of the conscious mind is buddhi, which is the reasoning and intelligent mind. It operates slower than the operational mind, and it connects to more of a higher expression of self and external environment. For example, the operational mind will function within the framework of human-created environment, but buddhi mind would accept and speak the language of nature. So, for example, allopathic medical system is created by manas, where we separate our physiology in different departments, and we're concerned with well-being of each department, and we analyze specifically that system without the concern of the other systems as the whole unit. But the buddhi mind would actually go beyond that, and it would see the holistic view, natural trends, like the energy trends. So this is the difference. So let's say the natural medicine is from the buddhi mind, whereas the allopathic medicine is from the operational mind. Now, next part of the mind is ahamkara, which is the Sanskrit term for ego. And ego has also a couple of expressions. Ego arises from the illusion of duality, cosmic illusion that is called Mahamaya, energy of the divine, specifically created for curious souls to venture out. These souls get conditioned by ahamkara, the ego, and start understanding self as the separate entity detached from the universal totality. It will condition their trends in behavior and trends in the acceptance of the external world, with a consequent building of specific views and opinions and judgments about what the self is and about what the world is. It gets the souls prone to materialism more so than spirituality. So ahamkara is the type of energy that conditions basically everything. All our existence is conditioned by that, except for this transcendental mind that is not conditioned, but is a very tiny thread that connects us to spirituality, and it is highly unrecognized by our conditioned mind. We have to make selfless effort in order to achieve that. Otherwise, we are conditioned. The entire existence is conditioned in every little aspect of our life, that we're conditioned by ego. Even when we think we're not conditioned by ego, when we're concerned with purification of the planet, even the balance in the universe, we're still conditioned by the ego, different part of it, which is called super ego, which is still an ego. So when we think this is my planet, it's already a super ego. When we think it's my house, it's my computer, we're conditioned by the false ego expression of the personality specifically, and super ego is the expression of. And another department here is the subconscious mind, the very interesting part of the mind that holds a lot of impurities, impressions of our old behavioral patterns, the situations and events in life that define what we are now, how we behave, that bring about emotions, that dictate to our conscious mind the trends of behavior in certain situations. And it is called chitta mind. Chitta is the entire body electromagnetic field. Our body is basically our subconsciousness. It's like a backpack full of stones that we drag from lifetime to a lifetime, that holds us down and makes us reincarnate based on one specific mental entity that is called samskara. And you probably have heard this expression of samskara of birth and death. That's exactly where it hides. And chitta is the reservoir where we hold all these samskaras that will predispose us to be reborn in the physical body again and again, until we recognize that and start purifying our subconsciousness and dissolving the samskaras. So manas, the operational mind, like I said, the function of it is sensing, cognizing, thinking, speaking. Operational mind is the guardian of the body. It is closely connected to the body. Body is our subconsciousness. And through the senses, mind connects to the body. As we grow while learning about the external world, external environment through the senses, we develop the operational mind. And since it's the frontal mind, or the mind that we perceive the most, we think that this is the only expression of the mind. This is why we consider the operational mind to be the main trend for behavioral pattern formation and responses and reactions, as well as the intellectual and analytical part of it. Learning, retaining information, analyzing that information, forming the views and opinions and judgments about the external world, about self and about others. Because it's conditioned by the ego, it would form those judgments really critically, and then it will start thinking of itself as the king. When the child is born, they say, oh, he's so pure, baby infant, does not have the operational mind developed, and only Mahabuddhi is present. So Buddhi mind, that's the more of universal type of mind. It's capable of discriminating and discerning what's good, what's not good for me and for others around me, and making decisions based on that. It's the reasoning mind. It holds the intellect, and it is the main decision maker, and it justifies certain deeds, because Buddhi mind is still conditioned by ego too. In discrimination of the operational mind, the ego will express more. So discriminating something that is good for me specifically. I don't care what happens to you as long as I get my benefit. The intellectual part will also happen in the same way. Justifying of the deeds will be very aggressive. Even some bad deeds would still be justified by the operational mind. Well, the frontal lobe, that's where the mind actually resides. Some areas of the parietal lobe, the back of the brain, that hold centers for the buddhi mind. Okay, continuing next is the subconscious mind. We'll begin with the chakra. Chakras, we know them. The chakras are the pathways for our mental energy from top to the bottom. The mental energy is called chi, part of the prana, or the prana can ignite chi. Prana is life force, primordial energy that has the mental aspect ingrained in it. And prana can convert and become chi within the mental realm, or if proper conversion doesn't happen, then prana can convert into vata in the body and start being destructive to the body and to the mind as well. So there's specific practices on the proper conversion of prana into the chi, universal energy, into the mental energy, in order to support and purify mind and mental realms, specifically the subconscious realm. So they are conductors of chi, and because the chi energy in its pure form is very intense, it can not be perceived by specific organs in the pure form. This is why chakras modify the flow of chi into specific frequency. For example, liver and pancreas would have to have modified chi, not so intense. Otherwise, it can damage liver. So the vibration of the brain will not sustain the vibration of liver. It will damage it. So the modification is required. And while the mental energy is flowing through the chakra, from the top chakra to the bottom, it gets modified by the chakra and distributed into the organs that are under the observance of that specific chakra, in order to fill those organs with the energy and purify and sustain its function, renew, restore it, and make it vibrant and viable. And the most important factor of chakra and function of chakras is the emotions. Chakras are keepers of the emotions. Chakras basically the portals where our subtle body connects to our physical body. These are the locks where the physical body integrates into subtle body. This is the point of integration. Each chakra will ignite specific emotional content, but that will be conditioned by proper development of the chakra. The child, until the age of 5 years old, has the chakral system completely open from birth. So chakras will have to acquire their proper spin. If the chakra spins in the correct way, then it develops the positive emotions. If the chakra under certain conditions starts spinning the other way, then it will develop the shadow aspects of the emotions, the controversial, the opposites. Those conditions and factors that will influence how chakra develops come from the external environment, the influence of parents and external surrounding on the psychological health and development of a child. If, for example, parents reserve to treat their child in a bad-mannered way, finding faults with the child, maybe even hitting the child, beating the child up, then Muladhara chakra, which is the base physical chakra, will slow its spin in the correct way. If it spins in the correct way, then the child will have trust in people, confident in their action. They will be good protectors of others. But if the chakra slows its spin due to those factors, then the chakra will start spinning different way, making the child uncertain and hesitant, fearful and insecure person later in life. Poorly developed Muladhara chakra, people would become aggressive, and they would resort to consumption of mind-altering substances. Parents and adults need to make sure and do all what depends on them in order to give their child a better chance in life and do the correct bringing up. Some of these factors will also affect the second chakra, third chakra, making that develop in the positive aspect or in the negative aspect, with the consequent emotional underlinement during lifetime, especially later in life, when these trends start manifesting and creating certain situation and challenges in somebody's life. And the emotions that are hosted by the chakras will be perceived by the manas, because chakras communicate with the operational mind, letting the mind know of what is going on in the body, some inconsistencies of the body, some sensations and feelings in the body. They conduct those impulses to the operational mind, and the operational mind is aware of what's going on, and it can start judging, making decisions on how to balance it in the moment, not specifically communicate to the buddhi about what the decision should be in a more conscious way, which may not be a very correct one because they're conditioned by the emotion. And we know that when emotion rises in the mind, it dictates the behavior. And once it does, then we may do some things that are not thought through, and that can lead to some poor consequences or poor actions. So chitta is the peripheral subconscious mind that hosts the samskaras, distorted impressions of our experiences that were never resolved and developed into a specific entity within mental magnetic field of the entire body, and they look like very tight knots within chitta, the subconscious mind, and we refer to them as karmic knots. Now and then you hear, oh, I untied the karmic knot. That's exactly when we eradicate samskara. Some karmic knots may appear within our subconsciousness, meaning that we've created them due to our imbalanced, improper actions, and that means that we will have to deal with the consequences. It will come back to us because that samskara will produce the flow of energy within the subconsciousness that will bring about the situation repetitively, produce some conscious strife in order to resolve it. So impressions of previous life experiences, that's what the samskaras are, and this is what are hosting within the subconsciousness. Mental programs based on the similar experience of the past. Every situation is different. Even the one that is being produced in this moment may not have anything to do with the previous experience. However, we're using the experience of the previous event in order to act in the current situation. A very tricky work of the mind that is actually making this setting for us to get trapped in. Based on that, the samskara will grow more instead of being resolved. Every time that we are in a current situation, reserving to the past experience may not be appropriate. And we always need to think of how we create the solution for this current experience in order to resolve the samskara. Some samskara surfaces up, which is very complex samskara, then we cannot resolve it, then our body is prone to die because it cannot resolve this. And if it's not resolved, then it will constitute the reason for our regaining the physical body in order to continue with this experience and strive for the resolution. This is the divine plan ingrained in this mental trends of samskara and subconsciousness, and our strive for the higher consciousness. Mental programs, that's what they are. Patterns of behavior, prejudices, false beliefs, and expectations. This is what the samskaras hold. They are also have the phantom of the emotions. So once the samskara activates, we're experiencing the same emotion. When mind starts searching for the similar situation back in life, it brings about the emotion right away. So, and samskaras are not specifically bad. They can be positive samskaras, samskaras of pleasure. For example, ice cream, and we just love ice cream, right? And we so cannot resist ice cream. And based on that, because it's very intense emotional response of the body, then samskara of ice cream forms somewhere in our body. Every time that we think of something or see something in our external environment, that activates some samskara that brings about some memories of similar experiences along with the emotions. And the emotions can be negative, and all of a sudden, in this present moment, when we remember the past experience, we acquire the same emotion of sadness, of hatred, or irritability, or on the other hand, emotions of pleasure, craving, even without seeing this real ice cream, because we already know what it is. We already have the experience. But somebody who never tried the ice cream before, ever in life, they would have no connection to it because they don't have the experience of it. They don't know what it is and what it tastes like. They have never formed the samskara. They would be neutral to the look of the ice cream until they try it with their senses, produce intense emotional experience, and then the samskara will form. All right, so next is the ego, ahamkara. And as I mentioned, the ego can be the false ego. Ego is usually the illusion of duality and separation. And based on the ego, our soul ventures out from the ocean of being, the universal field of totality, into the separate life. It acquires the physical body because it forms the samskara of duality. And that samskara separates consciousness into the subconscious realm that is due to manifestation in physical reality. And all of a sudden, we are born in this physical world, dwelling in the duality until we figure it out and find the way back home to the totality. But that's a task that all of us and spiritual people are trying to undertake and identify based on their individual experiences. So the sense of self that conditions the conscious mind and conditions the subconscious mind. Ahamkara justifies the ignorance. It actually creates the personality. The personality is what I am, and people start identifying and associating with different things. I am a musician, for example. Certain musicians will dress a certain way, behave a certain way, express emotions in a certain way, would consider themselves to be specifically that, which will make difference from others. So it promotes materialistic view because it's in duality. We associate ourselves with an operational mind, which connects to the subconsciousness, which is the body. And this is how we are thinking that we are materialistic being. Primarily, all health and psychological concepts of self are more materialistic and centered around the body and the subconsciousness. Ego forms the samskara, which is the product of seeing self in the duality that establishes the mind in the belief of that is the only way possible. That is the samskara. And it also acquires the high emotional aspect to it, and it drops deep into the subconscious realm, into this electromagnetic field, and it just stays there until we recognize it and start eradicating it. This is why a lot of spiritual practices are just not effective, because we're not working on dissolving samskaras, but we're working on something else. A lot of spiritual practices are based on sentimentalism. Psychology says that subconsciousness can resolve and help you grow, but it's not the subconsciousness that does that. It is the higher consciousness that can do it. Subconsciousness needs to be purified, in fact. And of course, it prevents the real spiritual growth. They're just playing the spiritual game with the underlinement of these impurities of the mind that they are not really addressing just because they don't have means to do so. But even the play in spirituality sooner or later will get them to understand how to do it correctly and start addressing the right cause of the suffering and the super ego. So super ego, it's when we think that, oh, I'm so selfless, that I'm so caring for other people, for my family, for my world, for my planet. And it is the positive aspirations where we idealize our self-image. All right, so next is the transcendental mind, Mahabuddhi. Mahabuddhi connects to the spiritual realm. It's unconditioned by ego. It opens up the universal cosmic data because it brings us to the unified field of natural law, where everything is one. That's where we have the key answers for our existence, for our mission. This is where the visions come from. It sees things as is without justifying things or preferencing them. That's when we see things as they are. That takes discernment and not the hasty conclusions of the operational mind. Once we start judging things with our manas, operational mind, illusionary, we can think of something that it's not what it is. It's what we want it to be. When we are patient and connect to a higher discriminating mind, then we start understanding this is not exactly what I want it to be, but this is what I don't know yet what it is. And I need to make an effort, mental effort, to recognize that and not be in hurry to make the conclusions of it. It leads to spiritual liberation. Of course, it opens up the gateways to the unified field. It eradicates the samskara. So this is the mechanism that when we get in touch with, will start dissolving and eradicating the samskaras, purifying the subconscious realm. So next one is the samskara itself. This is the picture how samskaras look within subconscious realm. Other than the parts of the mind, we have the layers of the mind, and there's one specific layer of the mind of the mental sheath, which is the program sheath and karmic sheath, and this is where the samskaras reside. So when we see different layers of our mind with the quantum vision, with the vision of the third eye when we're meditating, and all of a sudden we are given the chance of seeing ourselves from the side and seeing our subtle bodies from the side, we will see different layers that will be reflecting in different spectrums. In the karmic sheath, we will see the presence of the samskaras. They look like eggs, like tiny eggs or big eggs that have the vortex inside that looks like a needle, mental entity, electromagnetic entity that has the vortex inside. They can be different density, different sizes, and they can either be in packs and they may look like grapes, or they may be separate ones. They would look like big seeds or grain. It has the specific look in that transcendental vision that you're scanning your subtle body with. You will see those samskaras nesting in the karmic layer, and if you're lucky enough to see that, you will know which parts of the body are affected by samskaras, because they are distortive and they distort the flow of our subconscious realm, which is also the electromagnetic field. And if this field is balanced and pure, then it would be evenly distributed, nice and smooth. And if we see the samskara nesting in the subconscious realm, then it will start disturbing and distorting the flow of the entire field of subconsciousness, making certain part of it zap and swirl and be unevenly shaped. And that will produce the weak point, which will also be reflected in the physical body. And that area in the physical body where samskaras associate with will be weak and prone to development of the formation of a disease. Samskara can be dense, or it can be, chiropractor can tell, oh, you have the salt deposits under the skin in your muscles in this area along the spine, which is not really so. It's not specifically the salt deposits. The reason for it is because there's samskara in it, and the samskara of a high density that actually then diversifies the tissue of the physical body and produces this effect of the dense tissue, preventing the flow of the mental energy, as well as the affecting on the flow of the physical energy, like the blood circulation or the nerve conduction and the nutrients exchange in this area that can actually create formation of some new growth that can then be, under circumstances, mutate and turn into oncological condition. Or the other way, it may loosen the tissue, making it feeble, making the tissue weak and dysfunctional. So this is how samskaras affect the physical body. They are nesting within the subconscious realm, distorting the total flow of it, making us emotionally imbalanced, mentally imbalanced, producing various emotions, get us prone to developing of the stress or hyperactivity or criticism and so on. So that's what samskaras do. And they are fundamental blocks of karma because, like I said, they host impressions of the previous experiences, and yet they are unresolved. That means that they will produce situations on the external environment that are similar to the previous experience. And then once you recognize this is something that I'm going through every time, like from time to time, I'm produced with the situation which challenges me to certain decisions or certain behavior that repeats itself. This is the karma, but in fact, this is the work of samskara. It's the opportunity, it's the chance for you to either dwell in this samskara and make it stronger, or resolve this samskara and make it disappear and purify the subconsciousness. And if it disappears and you're successful in resolution of the samskara, then that situation will not form again. You will not be challenged to go through it. So that's the lesson of life that we understand. We're here to learn and go through and become better. So every situation is a chance of behaving in a more conscious way, dissolving samskara, eradicating and eliminating the chance of this situation to repeat itself endlessly. They get activated with new similar experiences. It has the emotional and mental aspect on it. It shapes the emotional and behavioral response, which is made by the operational mind, because we are trying to quickly go through things and quickly solve our problems without giving a chance of consideration and reconsideration of what would be the appropriate way, or better way, less harmful way of solving certain situation. We always rush into the action trying to change the situation or bring it back to the initial point. So we are acting on top of our emotion. Whatever conclusions you're making out of the situation are based on previous emotions and experiences is already a misleading conclusion. And if you start acting on it, that means you're just making that samskara stronger, and it causes the sensations in the body. When it activates or without activating expressively, it would still produce certain sensation in the body. Then that will be driving your mind towards either aversion or craving. So it's either the pleasant sensation or unpleasant sensation. Sensation is a very important thing that defines the way how the mind's gonna go. They are formed out of very intense and unresolved experience. If everything in the situation is logical, every stage of a situation, which is the beginning, the middle stage, and final stage, if they're all balanced, the samskara does not form. The logical resolution does not allow for the formation of samskara. But if it's at some point is imbalanced, and especially if the logical ending not achieved, then the samskara is most likely to be formed, and it would nest within subconscious realm, waiting for its resolution, producing specific events in life, and it will depend on your cognition and recognition of the situation and making the right choice and action, and then the samskara can dissolve.